I'm John Barry, CEO of Barry Law, and I want to introduce some local heroes, veterans, and supporters of the Lincoln Veterans Parade. I want to start off with a few heroes to my left, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves, talk about their branch of service, and what they're doing now after leaving service. We'll start off with you, Mike.
My name is Mike Harris. I was in the Army for 23 years, retired out as a lieutenant colonel, and right now I actually own and run a coffee shop called Ziggy's Coffee over on 7th and Pine Lake here in Lincoln. That's something I decided I wanted to do when I got out of the military. Is how I got into it. I wanted something with a little bit of structure, but I wanted to be able to do my own thing. And one thing the military was very good at was providing structure. And one of the things I thought long and hard about was, how am I going to keep that structure now no one's telling me what to do or how I have to do my day-to-day stuff? So I figured, well, a franchise, it's a franchise, Ziggy's Coffee, they give you your left and right limits and let you go crazy in between for the most part. So that leaves me the flexibility to do my day-to-day operations as I see fit, as long as I maintain or stay within the guidelines that they set out at their corporate headquarters. So that was something that appealed to me, and my wife said she liked coffee, so I said, why not? And so we got linked in with Ziggy's Coffee out of Colorado, and we opened up here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Great, and looking forward to it. When's the opening date?
We opened on the 29th of December this past year.
Oh yeah, okay. So opening up 29th of December. How's it going?
Everyone loves coffee. We stay pretty busy. Everyone likes a little bit of variety out there, so they come by to give us a try because there's a lot of good cups of coffee out there. But it's going well. We're doing great business. Can't say a bad thing about it. We're a great location, and people are great. Glad to see us in the neighborhood.
Great. Kenneth.
I'm Kenneth Straughter. I'm originally from Louisiana. I served in the Louisiana National Guard for 4 years. It's an experience that it didn't start out quite so well. I thought I was earning some extra money for college at the time. Got in and realized I was signing myself over to someone else, Uncle Sam. I thought I was losing my independence and all of those good things, but I had a great experience. After I got out of the military, I realized that the structure I learned, the self-discipline, the ability to take charge, do the things that you need to do, they were things that I probably wouldn't have gotten if I didn't have that military experience. Like I said, it wasn't all good. One of the things that I remember after we'd gotten in and we got all our gear and stuff, and they marched us about 12 miles to our station. When we got there, out of 300 guys, there were probably about 225 left. And I happened to be one of the guys that was standing there that wasn't puking and, profusely sweating. I was in pretty good shape. But then they asked the question, who didn't want to be there? Well, by the time I got to basic training, I was kind of fighting with being in the military, as I said earlier. And I raised my hand. Out of all of those guys, I was the only one. So PFC Kenneth Straughter was well known in 4 companies. Everywhere I went, all of the drill sergeants knew me. And I did quite a bit of push-ups. But like I said, after coming out of the military, I realized that all of those things, they gave me a lot of value going forward. I've been in the paint business for about 42 years. I started painting when I was in high school, fell in love with it. I've been in and out of it quite a few times, but came back to it. And since I've been here in Lincoln, about 28 years, I've been painting about half of that time. It's been great, even though the painting season isn't what it is in other places. You learn to figure it out. I've whittled it down to just doing residential painting, dealing with homeowners. It's great. It's great. Being my own boss, set my own pace. My greatest thing is family and being able to do the things that I get to do with my family. My youngest daughter, she developed epilepsy about 2 years ago. So having that freedom to be able to be there when she needs me, it's great. But I will contribute a lot of that discipline of being your own boss. Having to set your own schedules, doing things when you need to do them, even when you don't want to, just having that motor to motivate you to do it. I contribute a whole lot of that to my military experience.
Great. Jason.
So I was Marine Corps 96 to 2000. I was amphibious assault vehicle driver. I got lucky. I didn't have to go over, see any of the crap overseas and deal with that kind of stuff. Marine Corps taught me a lot. It taught me how to have the self-motivation. It taught me how to talk to people. It taught me how to always have that drive to push for more, to be better, to be stronger. I got out in 2000. I came back. My whole family does construction. I fell right into that. I've had my own flooring business for 23 years now. And kind of the same with the paint business. You set your own hours, you set your own stuff, but you always have deadlines that you have to hit. And one of the things I've always prided myself on is I don't want to miss a deadline. So that really pushed me to push the business harder, make it bigger, make it better. And I attribute that back to the Marine Corps. In 2019, I helped start a veteran nonprofit because I wanted to give back to the community. Through that, we've actually started another nonprofit I'm the founder of called Hero Stock, and that takes up a lot of my time right now. So, again, it goes back to that giving back, having a purpose. The military gave us a purpose. Now we get to continue to use that for the better. So.
And good and bad. And just to briefly, my story, my father was a Vietnam veteran and a famous trial lawyer. I began working, after he came back from Vietnam, he started helping veterans, and eventually I started working for him. But I had just come off of active duty, and I got activated and went back to Iraq. I had a 4-month-old daughter. I came back from Iraq, and I ended up staying in the Nebraska National Guard. And during that time, I got promoted and ended up becoming a lieutenant colonel. And I remember I was at JBLM, Joint Base Lewis McChord, otherwise known as Fort Lewis. And I was talking to this group of officer candidates, and I could see out of the corner of my eye there was this full-bird colonel that sat down. And then next to him, a brigadier general. And I turned to the master sergeant to my left, and I said, "Hey, man, the brass is here. We got to leave." He said, "Sir, you are the brass." That's when I knew I'm done, because I'd always wanted to stay away from the flagpole. But from my experience working with, I get to support and defend the Constitution every day. That oath I took, I get to do that as a lawyer, one client at a time. We also have a national veterans disability practice, and one of the real benefits of that is when we get veterans their disability benefits and the health care that they need. It's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You take care of those, and then they can start, and they want to go out and help their communities, build businesses and do things. But when they can't get the medical attention, when they're struggling financially and they're trying to figure out how they're going to feed their family, there's no headspace to think about how can I build a bigger future. It's how do I survive? And that's, I think a crawl, walk, run, and how we learn that in the military. You crawl, you walk, you run, you build on that. And I've seen veterans do that. And my philosophy from that has been survive, thrive, dominate, and those are the steps. I think when we start our businesses, we have to learn how to survive, and with that discipline, and we have those skills. Then the thrive is the team building skills we learn in the military. How do we operate a team? And then dominate. And I thought Big Army was dumb, right? We all had Big Army making dumb decisions, doing division level runs, right? Everybody's doing the airborne shuffle. It's stupid. But as you get to a big organization, you realize how brilliant the Army was. The ability, the logistical support, across the world, the firepower, and then the most brilliant leaders in the world are in the military. And so survive, thrive, dominate is something that I've used, and now I've started the veteran-led podcast where I'm talking to veteran leaders, many of whom were our clients who we worked with, and they'd send us letters saying, "Thank you, this was life-changing." I said, "Okay, that's great. What are you going to do with the rest of your life?" And then they had dreams. Once they got their benefits, they had dreams. So it's been very rewarding. And I, like all of you, I enjoy giving back, and I have fond memories. But I want to ask, and we'll start with Mike, what was the best lesson you learned in the military that is helping you to be successful today?
I would say the best lesson that I learned, what I was taught, I guess, was paying attention to the people around you and supporting them and all the needs that they have. You get into, when you first start out in the military, starting out as a private, and I whirled my way all the way up to lieutenant colonel. But along the way, you go from seeing it, from the very bottom of the leadership scale, if you will, or receiving all the leadership to being the one providing all the leadership along the way. And it's learning how to transition and be that bigger and better leader, and not just lead, because it's actually guide, mentor, and train. And then that's also part of the military. And I even translate that into what I do today in business. My manager, she'll tell you, she doesn't know it, but she could quote some stuff right out of the leadership manual in the Army, because all I do is turn around and instill that leadership right in her, and I do those same things over and over again because it was such a profound effect on me, and it allowed for my success to continue to progress through the military and be successful and then translate that outside of it. But it was all about, the best lessons I learned were all leadership ones, some of them tough lessons, but they were leadership lessons and how to be a better leader that takes care of their people and understands their needs above their own and making sure that they're met. That's probably my leadership one.
And Mike, what I love about that, so my favorite Army quotes is probably why the Army's the best branch. It's, in the Army, training isn't something we do, it is what we do.
Right.
And as you know, in a franchise, you have to train the systems, you've got to have trained team members, and if they're not trained, things get ugly.
Yes, that's right.
Just like when you deploy. So,
right.
Kenneth, what about you?
You pretty much hit it on the head. Preparation. That's the greatest thing that I learned from my military experience is preparation. Prep. Like I said, I started painting when I was in high school, and back then, it was 2 or 3 years before I touched a paintbrush. I actually got to put paint on. I was prepping, sanding, scraping, just prep. And the military solidified that for me to understand it. Preparation. I was hard-headed. I was, abstinent. I had a hard time when I was in basic training. But when I came through that, I learned about the preparation, and they were always preparing us for something. My thing was, I didn't always know what it was, so I kicked and I bucked a lot. But I learned from that too, that in preparation, you don't always know what the outcome is, but you prepare for it anyway. And that's my thing now. I'm always prepping. I'm trying to see what the outcome I want to have, and it may not turn out exact that way, but if you're prepping, you get mighty close to your goal.
You remember the term priorities of work? Mm-hmm. Patrol, yeah, that sounds a lot like that. Jason, what about you?
Logistics.
Greatest lesson.
Logistics. Making sure that you check every box along the way. Make sure that you don't miss any piece to put something together. Whether it's tile work, whether it's a veteran event, whatever it is, you always have to make sure that every piece is in order before you continue to the next piece.
Now let's transition now and talk about one of the worst things we learn in the military that does not work in the civilian world, Mike.
One of the worst things I learned was, I guess it goes back to, I would call it the style of leadership, especially I call it in today's generation or in someone outside of the military that is not, that doesn't understand or doesn't receive those kind of things well. I mean, you can be very abrasive, and I'll say I paid the price a little bit, but be very abrasive, very strict, and not explain a lot of things, and be and lead because of who I am and not because of what needs to be done, or that kind of thing. And one of the things I learned along the way, and luckily I kind of learned other ways to do it, was learning how to communicate better and lead by example, but also by communication and making people understand. If you look at leadership, you got to provide purpose, motivation, and direction. If you only provide one of those or two of those, people don't want to be led. And the worst thing I learned was probably when you start taking one of those things away, and you see that from other leaders that are out there. So probably some things that I learned was was examples of the wrong style of leadership, the wrong way to influence, the wrong way to talk to people, because I see it, I actually did it, I paid the price a little bit for it, but I learned and I moved on. And because of that though, that would not translate well into the generation of individuals that I usually that work in my coffee shop. I did from 17 to 24-year-olds run my coffee shop. And if I were to come in and be, this is it, this is the line, and this is what we're going to do, and there is no complaining, there is no talking, there is no asking, we're just doing because I said so, that would not go very well. We wouldn't be in business very long if I took that stance. So one of the things I learned that didn't work out was that style of leadership, or that way of doing things, and being a little more adept to other ways of being and communicating, especially with, I guess, a different generation outside of the military.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different world where you're used to having motivated young people on your teams, because I've been told the Army's a young person's game, right? That's why you age out and they retire. But it's from, you can no longer use the knife hand, right? You gotta and direct. You gotta use your upper facing palm and be, and ask the questions, and it can be frustrating. But I think that's a really good lesson, that it works well in the military, but it doesn't work in the civilian world.
Right. No.
Kenneth?
I think probably each and every one of us that have been in the military probably experienced that same thing. The type of structure that you get when you're in the military, it's not the same in civilian life. I remember when my grandmother passed, that type of togetherness and cohesion left my family. And I tried, when I came out of the military. My kids were young, and I did that military role with them. I think I even lost my family for 7 years due to the same thing, of just leading by demand, and you follow because I'm the father, I'm the leader. Even starting my business, I learned later on in life, if you're going to start a business, you need to sit down with your family, if that's something that you want to do. And it wasn't what I did. So I was push, pull, and dragging all of the time. And I guess maybe you can look at it as a bad thing, but looking at it now, I learned how to translate and utilize it better since I've been in civilian life. I've learned to use it. So although it might have been a bad thing initially, the way I use it, I've learned to use it, in a better way. Learn to use that discipline and that structure in a way where the family can go along with you.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge difference. When in the military, they don't care what your family wants. You got a family care plan when you leave. Nobody asks your family, but when you have a business, your family members are stakeholders, right? Because they're invested in the business too, because they know they're not going to be able to see you, they're not going to be able to spend time with you, and they know that there's a financial risk associated with it as well. And so they're really the stakeholders, and you have to have their buy-in. Whereas the military, they don't care what your family buy. You signed the contract, you took the oath, you're going. And we'll get a family care plan, we got a family support group, we'll take care of you, but you're going, and we don't care what you want. And and that's the way. But I think we've all suffered from that. I think as my my ex-wife would say when I came back from deployment, hey, you're never here. You're always working. I thought you were going to come back from the deployment. We're going to spend some time together. But I think when you have served in the military and you have that higher sense of purpose and duty and discipline, and you understand that structure that you put in place is the difference between serving your clients or customers correctly and failing them, you become accustomed to making that sacrifice. And I think our family and those who have never served don't know that sacrifice. And sadly, they never will. But when you've served and you know that you've got it, your failure could result in the death of one of your brothers and sisters to your left or to your right, that never leaves you. And so Kenneth, I have made the same mistake where I didn't get the stakeholders involved, and it cost me dearly, and it cost relationships. And that's one of the tough things about the military is it's go time. We grab our bags and we go. We don't think twice. But with our families, it can't work that way.
No.
What do you think, Jason?
Yes,
Worst
man.
thing you learned?
The yes man mentality. We had a lieutenant when I was in, and we did every dog and pony show, every crap thing you could think of, because he would never turn down anything. And as you get into the civilian world, you can't always be a yes man. And so it showed me to not do that in the civilian world, because that was one of the things that happened when I was in the military. Was he was yes, sir, we will do this, and this, and it burned our guys out. And so in the civilian world, as you're forming a business and you have employees, you can't always be that yes man. You have to look at your schedule and say, no, we can't take that job. or we can't do this because we're already booked out.
And so, as saying, and I think this is, it rings true to all of us. We want to serve the customer. We want to grow our businesses. And our thought is, serving the customer means everything, especially today when people can review your business online. And saying no usually has some pretty negative implications. So how do you deal with that, Jason? How does your team deal with that when saying no may result in, do you say, not now, we're too busy, or do you say no?
And I just kind of go back to, well, we're booked out this far. If you want us to do this job, it's going to be 7 months before we can get to it. And if they're willing to wait that long, then we're okay with it. But, you get those people that we need it done next week because we have family coming to town, and sometimes you have to just say no. I can't do that because my team is already strung out this far with these jobs, and we can't handle your job. Sometimes I will then go, here's one of my buddies that does the same business that I do. Talk to him. But the way our lieutenant ran it, where it was yes, 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 our guys were so burned out, and it was something that you can translate back into the civilian world. You run your guys 70, 80 hours a week, they don't want to come to work anymore.
Now, all of us have served somewhere outside of Nebraska. So my next question is, especially for you, Mike, why Nebraska? Why are you here running it, whether you're from Nebraska or not? Why run a business in Nebraska, specifically in Lincoln, Nebraska?
Well, originally, I am from upstate New York originally, but I'm married. I'm Nebraskan. And so after she followed me around for many, many years, we decided that I said, I'll go where you want to go this time around. And so she said, I want to go home to Nebraska. And that's kind of what landed us here in Nebraska. And one of the things about it, every time we came to visit, because we came back many times, it was the people, it was the community, it was the sense of belonging. Even though I was not from here, I was made a part of the community, and everyone greeted me with a smile. And Nebraska nice, they say, and it was almost a little overwhelming in how different it was than from where I was used to, at least along the way. So I was invited in with open arms, and specifically the Lincoln area, we started looking around at what made the most sense for something a little bit different and unique as far as coffee goes, a little bit fit with our niche of what we wanted to do. And we loved the people, and it's really what it came down in the community. And there was plenty of other organizations, there was plenty of veterans organizations that we wanted to get involved with in the community, and that's what we did. So was a part of the drive to be in Lincoln was to make sure that we got into some local veterans organizations, as well as enjoy the community and the people of Lincoln that we came to know, even though it was intermittent when we visited, came home on leave for me, but we became almost like a second home without actually living here in that sense. And then again, getting involved in those veterans organizations, they always made me feel welcome regardless of where I was from, opened up their arms, and I joined many of them. And I joined now, and we support them. That's one of our main things with Ziggy's Coffee here in Lincoln, is supporting the veterans groups that we can, as well as some of the local schools. So we make that our priority when it comes down to donations and spending time with local groups.
Great. Kenneth, how did you get to Lincoln, and why did you stay?
I came to Lincoln for a Christmas visit. I hadn't seen my kids for about 3.5 years. I was living in Atlanta, Georgia at the time. Had the old station wagon that me and the wife had. I woke up one morning to go to work, and my station wagon was gone. So once I did find it, it was still in her name. So I had to find her to get the station wagon. Called my father-in-law, related the message. She called me, sent a certified letter to Atlanta, got the station wagon, and within 6 months I was here. Unfortunately, I didn't know where they were exactly. So I came for Christmas and got here 2 days late on the 28th, 1996. And Christmas has been going on since. I got here, got with my kids. I roved around doing business in Louisiana and Georgia for a while, for about the first 5 years. The first trip coming back from Georgia back to here, I had to stop overnight. I said, that's enough. I need to settle down somewhere, and didn't want to leave my kids anymore, so I settled here. It was a little bit of a choice, especially leaving Georgia because the wages is so much different. But I adjusted. You know, my kids are everything to me. I adjusted. I've enjoyed being here. Thoroughly enjoy the people. Coming from Louisiana and coming from Georgia, life was really rough. Ran into a lot of rough patches, saw a lot of rough things. Coming here to Lincoln and seeing the life that my children had been living since I hadn't seen them kind of overwhelmed me. I even found love for the ex-wife again because where she had brought my kids to. And it's a great place for raising kids. I will admit that Lincoln is a great place for raising kids. And like I was sharing with my friend, I'm sorry about not remembering your name, but I started a nonprofit organization. Me and the missus were homeschooling the kids, and when they decided they wanted to go off to school, so we had to deal with the public school system, and we started that. And then the kids were bringing their friends home for school, so it's been a lifelong work, working with kids, you know, and advocating for them, you know, not falling through the cracks. You know, we have a lot of influctuation of immigrants here in Lincoln, and being able to help them to, you know, with their kids to deal with the public school system. It's been great. So besides painting, doing what I love to do, also working with kids. So it's been great here in Lincoln.
It's great. It's a great story. I think that speaks a lot about our community, that once people get here, they usually want to stay. Jason, how did you get here?
I married a Californian when I was out there in the Marine Corps, and I drug her back here for a temporary move. And 23 years later, we're still here because it's a great city. It's a great place to raise kids. My daughter's a senior in high school this year, and I just got back into the veteran nonprofit world 2019, and now I'm very deep in that world. And it's amazing to me when you look around at the businesses and the people that you run into that are such huge supporters of our veteran community, and they want to donate. They want to donate their time. They want to donate their money to help that veteran organization grow and bring them together, bring all of our veterans together, and try to get rid of that number a day that we see, you know, that's thrown out there all the time, that 22 a day. So it's pretty incredible to be a part of that world and be one of the leaders of that world. So.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, Lincoln is a veteran-friendly community, and we've all been to non-veteran-friendly communities, and we know what that's like. And for my story, my father came back from Vietnam. He was a lawyer in New York, and his mother fell ill. He was from Iowa, ended up in Lincoln, started his practice here in 1975, and then I lived here until I was about 16. Went to military school and then college, then served in the military and came back. 10 years later, I was at Creighton Law School, and then I came back to take over my father's business. And so we've set up our headquarters here in Lincoln, which remains here in Lincoln on 70th and O Street. And I think the great relationships that we have in Lincoln, and what I like to hear, sometimes what I hear from outsiders is, well, you know, Lincoln's kind of a tight-knit community, and it's kind of tough to get in. And I don't know if that's true, but I know the veteran community in Lincoln is very accepting and very open. You know, I've heard from other businesses say, well, you know, Omaha's easier than Lincoln. But the reality is, from what I've seen, at least from the veteran community, is it's very opening, very, very inviting. And people come to us open arms and say, how can I help? And Lincoln has truly been a veteran-friendly community, and that's what makes it great for veteran businesses, is that we generally want to take care of our fellow veterans. We respect and honor our veterans here, and we see them as resources. And I think that Lincoln really understands the value of the leadership that you gentlemen bring to our community. And probably Lincoln wants to see a lot more of it. And you know, what do they say? To much has been given, much will be asked. And I think that the expectations here are not that if you're a veteran that we should, you know, feel sorry for you, but if you're a veteran, we expect more from you. Thank you, gentlemen, for everything that you've done for the Lincoln Veterans Parade, what you've done for the Lincoln community, and most importantly, what you have done for our Lincoln veterans and what you continue to do to assist them in their journeys.